What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical average American here today to react and learn about what it's like living in Canada, more specifically, what it's like living in Montreal, Vancouver, or Toronto. And what's extra nice for me in this video is it's the experiences that are going to be talked about by a couple of Americans. So an American like me can kind of live vicariously through them in a sense and get an idea of what it was like living in Canada in these different cities. And I'm not exactly sure what they're going to talk about as far as what it's like living in Canada, the people, how the city life was, getting around or getting a job or renting a place or going to the grocery store, or how the fast food was. I don't have any clue, but that's kind of what I'm excited to hear about. What they thought the overall what living was like in Canada. Sounds fascinating to me. And let's take a look.
So Montreal is beautiful. First of all, there's some incredible architecture. It has a lot of very old, historic buildings.
This guy looks happy, like he's already like smiling, just reminiscing about old Montreal. He probably tells his American friends like that. Oh yeah, back when I was hanging out in Montreal, that's what I'd be doing anyway. I'd be bragging about it. But I think he's spot on. I think the reason he first decides to mention the beautiful, interesting, older architecture is because in America, we just don't have that. We don't have it. We don't have these interesting historical buildings. Not many. There's some places you can go where some battles were fought or where maybe the founding fathers signed some kind of document. But Canada has some really fascinating places, especially somewhere like Montreal, which I've seen a little bit of in other videos. But I absolutely get this is very, very, very common compliment from Americans, and for good reason. There's somewhere like Montreal in Canada, there's nothing like that in America. Nothing.
If you've seen Ghostbusters, the building that the Marshmallow Man climbs up, that's there. You'll see that.
Oh, really?
Riding the bus around town.
Okay.
A lot of films are filmed there. It's a lot of Hollywood films are actually filmed in Montreal.
Really?
And so sometimes you'll see areas blocked off for filming or whatever, and that's kind of fun to.
That is kind of fun. That actually is. I didn't know that. I actually didn't know that. It's funny because I think Americans assume movies and stuff, especially American movies, are shot and filmed in America and played by American actors, and yet many actors are Canadian and Americans never know it, and we're like shocked when we hear about something like Ryan Reynolds or something. We're like, what? Canadian? What is Canadian? Exactly like that. Or that locations are in Canada. It's a very funny, strange thing, honestly, the more I think about it.
To be in that environment. I mean, it has a very metropolitan feel. There's people from all over the world there on business, on
Right.
travel, or just living there. There's several universities, so a lot of student areas. They have a couple different English universities, a French university. It's really cold. That's for certain. It gets.
Okay.
I think on some days it was like -40.
I mean, you can't get through an interview about your time in Canada without, the old, it was cold. It was very cold. How was your time in Canada? Very cold. No, but can you tell us about it, please? It was cold.
Which is where it doesn't matter if you're talking Fahrenheit or Celsius. They do use Celsius, there, by the way, in the metric measurements. So,
Yes.
When you're driving, it's kilometers per hour. You have to get used to that. 60 kilometers.
That's such an American thing to say as well. Like, oh, it was so different. We used the metric system. Very exotic, the metric system. Honestly, that would be kind of an interesting change. He's not even kidding.
Kilometers per hour sounds pretty fast, but it's not. So you got to watch your speed. And French and English are the main languages in Montreal, and mostly
Right.
French outside of Montreal within Quebec. But
Right.
maybe a third of the people you hear speaking are speaking something else. They'll be speaking Russian or an Eastern language. Or
A third? Wait, a third of the people? in Montreal? Man, I didn't know there was that many, like, people traveling or that diverse a population that I don't know exactly if his 1/3 is accurate, but I assume that's like generally correct based on his experience. That's a lot of people not speaking French or English. That is impressive, honestly. It gives me a better idea in my mind. I feel like if I went to Montreal or something, I wouldn't be quite prepared for some of that culture shock. Because in America, everyone speaks English. That's it. English. If someone speaks another language, everyone loses their mind. Everyone's like, whoa, 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 you speak another language? It's like having a superpower or something in America.
Or Spanish is very common as well. So most people live in apartments in Montreal. There's a lot of apartments. There's also some beautiful homes in some areas as well. There's a beautiful park.
Man, I can only imagine trying to buy a home in Montreal. Be like trying to buy a home in New York, right? Just be like $1 million.
Mount Royal Park or Montreal Park was designed by the same guy who did Central Park in New York, and it just has beautiful paths and a pond that they.
This guy is just chock full of nifty information. I'm liking these fun facts. Like, that wasn't even supposed to be part of this video. The designer who made Central Park in New York City designed a park in Montreal as well. Go figure. I guess there's only so many people you can call to design your city park, I guess.
Turn into an ice skating rink during the winter, and they have sleigh rides, and it's just very kind of magical during the winter. The fall is gorgeous. The maple leaves all change, and speaking of maple leaves, their hockey teams are very well supported by fans, and it's very difficult to schedule an appointment during a hockey game or to try and track. Unless you
really, wait, is that is that true? It's actually tougher to schedule stuff during hockey games because Canadians are like busy. It's like I need my doctor's appointment, please, and they're like, hockey game. It's like, no, it's life or death. Hockey game's on. You're just like, fine, I'll wait.
Game with someone, though, that lets you in. Crime really didn't seem to be. I never felt like fear being in Montreal. And, we'd be out till 9:30 or 10 at night sometimes with our appointments. There is an area called the Red Zone, which we never went to because it was the Red Zone, and it's mostly an old part of the city that has a lot of bars and things, and really people don't live there. It's just a kind of a commercial district, and so apparently there's maybe some crime going on down there that there was a good reason, I'm sure, that they told us to stay away, a few blocks.
Wait, they really tell you to stay away from the red zone or something like that? And anyway, I've heard this before. I think that, overall in Canada, crime is just less than America. But usually in big cities in America, that's where the crime is really focused. It's really like you get a little nervous. Walking home at nights in certain parts of any major city, LA or New York City, would make you nervous for good reason, and most people would accept that and agree with it. I don't think I'm saying anything wild here, but that's impressive to me, that people feel safe in a gigantic, huge city like Montreal in Canada. That says a lot, actually. It says a lot.
Of the city, but for the most part, it's very easy to get around and very safe. Most of the time we're in the subway. Oh, this is a really exciting part of Montreal. So they have the metro system, they call it. So you ride in these subway. They have 4 main lines to get all over the city, as well as some street buses if you need to get around. But they have underground malls, basically. Like, you can access a lot of the city, all of downtown, from underground, just walking through tunnels and
underground malls. What does that mean? Underground malls? Is it because the metro is so gigantic? It's not like a literal mall where you can buy stuff. It's a figurative mall. It's a giant area, the metro. Anyway, it's very impressive. From what it sounds like, Canada's public transportation system is much better than America's. Not that that's saying very much, I'm afraid, because America's public transport system is bad. For lack of a better word, it's bad. It's bad. So, most people have cars, personal cars. People don't use public transportation much in America, and it's kind of neglected in a way. So it's cool. I mean, it's unfortunate when you think about it, because a lot of people could really get a lot of good use out of that if it were nice and safe. But sounds like Canada's doing it right, which is good to hear.
Taking the subway, and some people, they have their apartment has access to underground. They don't have to go out in the winter when it's negative 40 degrees. They can just go underground. They can get to their grocery store, to the mall, to work, to the bank.
What?
Everywhere they need to go, just underground.
What? Wait, what? I wonder if there's videos of that where you could see all of what he's talking about. You can go to work, go home, go shopping without even stepping outside. Is that true? It's pretty amazing.
That's pretty cool. So we really didn't tracked, go door to door looking for people outside, because nobody's outside during the winter. So you meet people just in the tunnels down underground. You meet people on the subway. It's actually really cool. It's a really fun place. You get lost at first because you don't know where you're going, but just pick up a map and you can orient yourself pretty well, or ask people where to go. People are really friendly. So they do have a different currency. They have the Canadian dollar. I don't know what it is now. At the time, it was advantageous to us. We got more. I think we got $1.30 in Canadian money for $1.
Oh, what are we at right now? I'm honestly curious. $1 to $1 Canadian dollar? Yeah. What are we at? What are we looking at? $1 equals 133 Canadian dollars. Okay, it's about the same.
So things seemed to be a little cheaper. We went to Wendy's and you get $1 burger, and it really is costing you 75 cents or something.
Wow.
But I mean, as far as
well, there's a perk of going to Canada that isn't talked about too much. Get your fast food burger for 25 cents less. That is all the reason an American needs. Tell us no more. We're there.
Being able to access things, a lot of the shops and the restaurants, you wouldn't know if you were in the U.S. or Canada, except for the French menus.
Right.
But I mean, all the fast food chains and some of the restaurant chains and the grocery stores have different names, but you can get all the products you need. You can get your peanut butter and jelly. You can, whatever you need.
Your peanut butter and jelly. He's trying to come up with the fundamentals of survival in Canada for an American. And then the first thing that comes to mind is you can get, don't worry, Americans. You can get your peanut butter and jelly. Thank goodness.
If anything, they just have more variety because of such a diverse population, a culturally diverse population.
Right.
Something outside of Montreal, I guess, that is easier to find. Maple syrup. They have even in Montreal they have them. It's called a sugar shack or cabane à sucre.
Oh.
And basically, during the maple syrup season, so the early spring when the maple trees are letting their syrup out, you go to these places and whatever you order on the menu, usually it's a breakfast type thing, but it'd be anything, and they bring out a pitcher of hot maple syrup and you just pour it on your food. And
hot? Is maple syrup supposed to be hot? Is maple syrup supposed to be hot? I never even thought about that. Hot steaming a hot steaming pour of maple syrup. It sounds good. Maple syrup is never hot. Syrup is never hot in America. I'm getting a little hung up on this. Feel like I just discovered something. I'm watching a What Living in Canada is Like video, and the most mind-blowing fact so far is that you can heat up maple syrup. That is a good sign.
And they bring out a pitcher of hot maple syrup, and you just pour it on your food, and maybe not the healthiest, but it tastes really good. So
as far as generally, I think culture between Vancouver City and at least what I was used to here in the States, it's pretty similar.
Oh, we're on Vancouver now with an individual telling their experience of living in Canada, but they were in Vancouver. Okay, so good to point out.
Both are very driven. We want to be successful. We want to do our best. to be frank, make money,
Right.
do well in our.
that yeah, that is very much like the city hustle and bustle culture in a lot of American cities is like you're there to, especially in cities in America. Like I'm glad he said that. That seems to be very true. People move to cities to get motivated in America, to be around other like-minded people who seem to, especially in America with entrepreneurs wanting to start businesses or something like that, be part of a startup. Definitely moving to cities seems to be that common ground. So it's interesting that he points that out as a similarity in Canadian cities. So that's kind of cool.
our professions and everything. I think that's common between both. One thing I feel like I noticed as far as culture goes is maybe Vancouver's like a little more lax. There's a lot, and sometimes members would think differently, but at least us as missionaries felt like there's at least like one holiday a month. you know,
Oh my gosh, that is. I mean, that one holiday a month. That's kind of funny. I have heard that like time off in Canada is so much more reasonable than in America. Like in America, we don't have any of these wellness days or volunteer days. Some people get that in Canada, I think. There's none of that. Like you can get off work for vacation, like and not very much vacation, or if you're sick for only so much and you got to get back to work. So this just brings up that kind of general point that there's more holidays in Canada, there's more of a work-life balance it seems like. So that definitely sounds a lot better.
so I don't know what they would say to that, but I definitely noticed that people are very friendly. Or I thought in
Mm.
Canada they talk to us a lot. One thing though, as far as like religion goes, um, people weren't as open to the idea as they might be here in the States. And
Oh, so I think with the people being interviewed here, uh, they went to Canada for some kind of religious mission or to spread some kind of word and or recruitment, and that's part of the reason they were in Canada. So I think that's what he's referring to. It's not totally random. That's what they were doing. But besides that, it honestly might be interesting just because he was having to talk to strangers in Canada and just hearing about what his experience with that was, religious or not, what like trying to interact with strangers in Canada was like. I mean, from the sound of it, he's saying that him trying to do some sort of religious recruitment in Canada, in Vancouver, was not as successful as in America.
maybe that's just from like the difference of founding. We're a country built on the idea of like one nation under God.
Hmm.
And a lot of people that I met in Canada didn't really like have that same background. So
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely true. I like how he's being very like kind of analytical about this. I would wager that in America, especially, it depends on where you are in America. You might find people that are going to brush you off, or if you go to certain parts of America, there's probably a lot of people who'd be willing to stop and listen to his message. But it's definitely that one nation under God kind of thing going on in America that he's talking about.
here you might hear like celebrities that never go to church or anything like that say like, "Oh, I'm grateful that God led me here, or God's given me this career." I don't think you hear that as much up in Canada. I don't know
Hmm.
why exactly that is. That's just one of the things that I did notice as far as culture goes.
Sure,
In
sure.
Vancouver City, traffic is unreal sometimes. And so most people try to get by just taking public transit. The bus system is very, very good.
There we go again. It's like it's a different world. Like the people actually taking the bus system. I don't know. I guess I'd like to see some of the bus system in Vancouver and see like is it super nice? Is it affordable? Is it convenient? I believe it is, from what I've heard.
If we ever wanted more people to teach, and I served in a YSA that covered 2 states. It was a huge YSA, and we knew all the YSA people didn't drive to school. We knew that they took the bus, so
Yeah.
we would sometimes just buy bus tickets for a day, hop on the bus, and just talk to people at public transit. And it was so busy. It was a lot of fun. So I think people do that to avoid the traffic, to be honest, because if I lived in Vancouver, I wouldn't want to deal with some of the traffic I got stuck in every day because it was unreal. Food is...
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's like very expensive to own cars in major cities. That can be true in America too. You got more people getting taxis or Ubering around, not owning a car. You can get away with that in huge cities in America. Everywhere else, you could never. You gotta have a car. But that makes kind of sense. Maybe that's a similarity, honestly. Anyway, I think with how long this video is, I'm gonna stop it there and continue these interviews about what it's like living in Canada in part 2, which will come out after this video. But for now, I think this is good. I'm very much enjoying hearing their point of view about their experiences, and I'm glad it was in 3 different cities, because they're giving slightly different answers and analyzing it a little differently, and that's very interesting. And yeah, this has just been honestly very enjoyable. So if you have enjoyed this video so far as well, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, or part 2 of this, feel free to subscribe for more. Me talking about Canada, learning things about Canadian culture and things in Canada I've never seen. Feel free to subscribe for more of that. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.